Warning, this podcast contains heavy spoilers for not just one movie, but entire franchises. We highly recommend going and watching these movies before listening to us as a companion piece that stitches all the timelines into one creepy, crime-ridden story. There will be no more spoiler warnings. We do not break character. After this, there is no turning back. You've been warned. Hit the music.
You are talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's
alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to It's Alive Live Podcast. This is a true crime, paranormal, interstellar podcast covering unbelievable stories that sound like they're ripped straight from the pages of a Hollywood script. I'm your host, the outlaw, Dr. H.R. Smokenstein, T.H.E. And with me as always is my very own scream queen, the perfect combination of beauty and brains, the brightest Smokenstein in the horror, expert of guts and gore, the gorgeous, the sexy Amy Rose.
Hi.
So, we went missing again for a week. we know we had a spotlight this week.
Yeah.
And there's a few bits and pieces free last week. And there's a few bits and pieces for you coming forward this week as well.
Yes, yeah,
We're giving away our WrestleMania preview, which is shot about 2 weeks before WrestleMania. So not all of the matches are set because I actually...
Oh, there's one that's definitely gone that we talked about.
Well, that was actually, that was a set match. Kevin Owens and...
I'm saying that's gone now.
Randy Orton. So that's out of the picture.
Yeah.
Orton will get another opponent.
Oh, well, Kevin Owens won. Not right now, anyway.
No, that's legitimate. He's gone.
Yep.
And who else was there? Oh, I had predicted that Carmelo Hayes might be in the match for the United States. Yeah, he's hanging out with The Miz, and Braun Strowman got beaten pretty fucking definitively on SmackDown, so he'd be out of the match too. So it will be Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight.
So you're half right.
Well, I'm writing who's going to win it. My winner still isn't out of the match.
Who do you think?
Jacob's going to take that one.
I thought you were saying LA Knight in my head.
No, he's had it for a while. Caesar, you're in the shot.
Go to bed.
Our dog does not know camera awareness at all. Don't be showing me dirty looks. What's that about? See if you got the video right now, which isn't free on Patreon, but it is up there on Patreon. That's another reason we've been kind of messing around this week, where we did a spotlight this week rather than dig right into a new episode. Was we wanted to try and figure out how to bring free video to the masses.
Yes.
So the Horrorverse headlines come this week on, should be videoed and should be on YouTube, most likely.
Fingers crossed.
We hope. If not, it'll sure as fuck be free on our Patreon page. So that's at the Horrorverse Network. So go check that out. So what do you have for us? You've been sorting something out for us this week. What do you have for us this week? What are we doing this week?
Yes. So true to form, we are a week and a half removed from the European Mother's Day, late as usual.
Yeah.
So this week I thought we would talk a bit about true crime's most infamous mother, the serial mom herself, Beverly Sutphin.
Awesome. This is one of my all-time favorites. The only thing is, right, because of Peter Sutcliffe, I keep going to say Sutcliffe instead of Sutphin.
Sutphin.
Yep.
Sutphin.
Sutphin. And then when I see Sutphin, I just picture a dolphin version of Peter Sutcliffe.
Sutphin. Oh, Sutphin.
Yep.
Clever.
Dolphin Peter Sutcliffe. Because dolphins are known to rape, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And Peter Sutcliffe did rape him before he killed him, right? He didn't just kill him.
I'm not sure who he was. It was
all sex workers. He was after, apparently, but it wasn't really. It was anybody.
Anybody. Yeah.
Well, they told people that it was sex workers so that they'd stay calm about it. And then suddenly he hit a woman who was definitely 100% not a sex worker. And then it was like, he's after the regular folk.
Shocking. So this one is one a lot of moms can relate to. I think I can definitely think of one or two people that would be better off in the business end of a fire poker.
All right, Dexter, chill out. Won't be getting on your nerves anytime soon. Do you want to get into the story before you say anything else to incriminate yourself?
Yes. Yeah. So Beverly Sutphin was born Beverly Turner in June of 1954 to parents Ward and June Turner in Mayfield, Cleveland, Ohio. The Turners were devout Christians and Beverly was raised the same, but very little is known about her youth, bar the tiny nuggets of information that Beverly over the years shared herself, but we'll try to piece her early years together as best as we can. Ward was a farmer's son and hailed from Shaker Heights near Cleveland, Ohio, a suburb of Mayfield.
Ward is a strange first name.
Very, weird.
Well, I don't know. Is it just because it's the surname here?
What would it be short for?
I don't know.
Stewart? The only thing that I can see a ward in. Howard?
Maybe. I never thought to look, to be honest. Just because it just said Ward. That's it. What is Ward?
Stewart and Howard is all I can think of. Warden? Walden? Warden?
There's a few options here according to our new AI overview. This fucking AI thing is crazy. It just gives you credit. Edward.
Oh, Edward.
Howard. Hereward. I've never heard of a Herward. Herward. It's Hereward. Less common, but
okay. Either way, Ward attended a preparatory school, was a veteran of World War II and a state college graduate majoring in philosophy, and a member of a fraternity, Alpha Kappa, and a responsible white-collar professional and upstanding citizen.
Yeah, those white-collar professionals, they never do anything wrong.
Nope. Ward met his future wife, June Evelyn Bronson, when they were teens. The two dated and went to state college together. They married in 1950 and became the parents of a single child, Beverly, in 1954.
That wasn't from lack of trying. They did want to have a big family because that was well, not so much a big family. I think that the traditional thing was like Beverly would get eventually herself a boy and a girl, and the proper,
gentleman's family.
Yeah. Is that what they call it? I thought it's in a nuclear family as well, the American nuclear family as well, where you have a boy, a girl, the picket fence, all that kind of shit.
Is that what a nuclear family is?
I think so.
Oh, I know they hear it's a gentleman's family.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have nuclear threats here that often.
Only gentleman threats.
Yes. Well, what was that
was
one?
Sellafield. They were afraid that it was going to explode. So I thought that the time that we got the iodine tablets around, that we all got sent out cyanide capsules in case
That's
they
what I
ever
thought
exploded.
they were too.
I was convinced because there's only one per person in the family. I was like, well, sure, we'd only need one. I thought that's what it was before we all kind of got too sick from it.
I got more suspicious because they actually shortchanged us one, and only 4 turned up for the 5 of us.
Oh shit!
So one of us was going to have to stay behind.
It's so creepy.
But yeah, they had trouble conceiving, and this is the 50s, so you're not going to have as many medical breakthroughs.
Yeah.
I suppose your options really are adoption, isn't it? Or that's about it. Would they have had many in ways of medically?
I don't think. I mean, I don't think they could take my egg and put it into somebody else.
There'd be no IVF or any of that crack. No.
All we know about Ward's profession was that he was a successful businessman with offices in Ohio and New York. Whatever his profession was, it left the Turners very well off, with Ward often being seen on the golf course of the local country club and his time off, and the Turners boasting a large home in an upper class area of Mayfield.
And again, when we say like we just know him as a businessman, Beverly, after this is all said, no, we won't get too far into it because I don't want to be spoiling the story, but when it's all said and done, she did not like to cooperate with anybody on the story. She didn't really tell anybody anything after she eventually did a little time and walked away.
Yeah. June, on the other hand, was raised in St. Louis in an upper middle class family. Daughter of an evangelical minister, June was brought up to be a proper lady and a picture perfect wife, constantly in her best Stepford Wives get-up, with flawless manners and on-the-ball etiquette. June was what you'd describe as a proper lady, at least publicly.
Yes. And you're going to notice the word perfect pops up here a lot.
Oh, yeah. You see, Beverly, like her mother, was being raised to be the picture of perfection. And like her mother and father, she was taught from a young age how to put on the right mask in public to keep the facade alive. But that's all it really was, a facade. Because behind the mask of perfection lay a dark side, one it's speculated she inherited from her parents, who also liked to smile in public. But the home life of the Turners was far from perfect. In fact, if independent researchers are to be believed, the Turner home was really a house of horrors, with Ward suffering from pretty severe PTSD from his time in World War II, and June being an unbearable perfectionist, willing to go to awful lengths to ensure the family image was in no way compromised.
Not an easy task when your daughter is Beverly Sutphin. Now, if you want to have real fun with this game today, with this show today, you can have a drinking game, and every time we say the word perfect, take a shot. And you'll be hammered by the time we finish the first part. If you go back and start this from the start, you'll probably be on your way there already. So Beverly obviously had a bit of a dark side. We're going to get into that dark side as we go on, but she did. She was noticeably cold towards people. She obviously enjoyed watching other people. She liked enjoying watching other people squirm.
Yeah.
So she would put people into positions, especially adults. She'd put them into tricky positions by making certain claims, saying certain stuff about the adult, spreading rumors about the adult, just to see what would come back to her and in what manner it would come back to her. At times getting some people in severe trouble because she might say something along the lines of, oh, well, I was talking to my friend Kate there yesterday. She said her dad's raping her. You know? And then there's an investigation into all this and they look into it. But it never comes back on her, not really, you know? I mean, June sees it a little bit. She spends a lot of time with her trying to mold her. She's really into the whole... So, I mean, there is this like abuse on her almost straight away because her mother will be... Similar to what we're going to talk about next week with the Magdalene laundries. It's going to be very similar to having the nuns following them around, telling them they're, you know, not behaving properly, or this is the way a lady acts, or this is how you're supposed to act. Except this is more about high society than it is religion. You know, even though the religious undertone is what's there to try and enforce these rules and try and enforce this etiquette on her, that isn't really there. Now, we do know that, like, so June would have been, you know, beating her. Obviously there would have been a lot of beatings, a lot of insults, a lot of kind of small little kind of jabbing at her, you know, telling her she's overweight when she's not, to try and get her to eat less and slim up. In the meantime, Beverly's taking this out on the neighborhood animals. Yeah, so she was known as well to start it was suspected that she was killing animals on because pets were going missing. And when I say it was suspected, it was mainly, again, June that was suspecting things. Okay. Ward drank a lot when he was off.
So he'd been spent a lot of time.
He spent a lot of time at that country club.
Okay.
When he was home, he was away with the fairies. I don't think it's a PC term anymore, but the first time I heard of it, my dad said it was called being shell-shocked.
Are you not allowed to say it?
I don't think you're supposed to say shell-shocked anymore. It's just... They have
Can you say it if you're using it? Well, I was shell shocked. Or is that still not
I think
okay?
it's the same way as calling somebody crazy be seen as a bad thing. You know, no, they have mental health issues. You're not crazy. You just have mental health issues. Okay. They're not shell shocked. They just have mental health issues. Yeah, PTSD is what they would call it now. But I remember it, man, because I had no idea what that meant whatsoever. You had to explain what shell shocked was to me afterwards. We used to go into a bar when we were kids. I had an awful drinking problem as a child. And we'd go into the bar and there was this old man sitting there and he clearly had an American accent, which was I'd pick up on straight away because you wouldn't have had as many foreign people in your locality in Ireland in the 90s. It was a very Irish. We just didn't have a lot of foreigners, especially in small towns. They usually go to the city if they were going. So for me to hear an American accent, it was off TV, was like, whoa. But this guy's sitting there talking to himself and he seems to be getting upset with himself. So I'm a little scared of him at the same time. But I remember turning to my dad and was like, Dad, the man's talking to himself. And he was like, shh. And he told me his name and he was like, he's shell-shocked. I was like, what the fuck is shell-shocked? And he was like, he was in the war. He was in Vietnam or something like that. Yeah. And you know, the bombs coming down, hitting in the guns. His brain is fried from it. Like, whoa. I was always a little afraid of that old man. But he was an elderly man. I was always nervous around him because I didn't know if he was going to just blow up or whatever. Yeah. On top of this, Beverly seemed to have a bit of an obsession with horror books, horror movies, true crime magazines, anything that showed pain and death and stuff like that. And that kind of started to melt through to her schooling, where all artwork was very violent, very red, lots of reds. And her stories, if she was to write an essay in school, they were always very dark, very creepy, very violent stories. To the point, especially now, we know this isn't a big issue these days. No. I mean, geez, we see our own kids. They're obsessed with horror and they draw some of the most craziest shit that you're ever going to see. But to people in the 50s, especially for a girl to be interested in all this in the 50s, big red flag for them.
Oh, yeah.
So they start pounding down on her even harder, like to the point where she's sent to a Christian boarding school. Because June reckons the easiest way to deal with this one is to just put her somewhere where the nuns can beat it out of her. And we'll learn all about that next week, about nuns beating stuff out of people. But she goes here. And it's funny because we're going to talk about the Magdalene sisters next year and the Magdalene laundries next week. Yeah. they're not refined to Ireland. Those things were all over the place, including America. So I would wonder, no, she's fucking evangelical Christian, so that's nearly worse again. Yeah, almost worse again, to be honest with you. And it's here she picks up one of her weird little quirks as well. Because as we go on, it's one of the big things people said she had a real... Because, like, we're going to talk about it later, but Beverly's a real, like we said, the picture-perfect mother.
Yeah.
And I don't know about your mother, just small quirks about moms, proper moms, that there's certain stuff they dislike that you'd be looking at them and saying, why does that bother you? I mean, why is it annoying you that I'm doing this thing? It's not bothering you. And her thing was chewing gum.
Okay.
But the reason for it was, as a child, Beverly loved bubblegum. Loved blowing up the bubbles and leaving them pop.
Yeah.
The nuns in the Christian school did not like the bubblegum. They saw it as, again, unladylike.
We would like bubblegum.
And
is that not a common thing at school?
Oh yeah, in school, because this is a boarding school, so she's in the area the whole time. And it was the one nice thing Ward used to do, would bring her some chewing gum when he came to visit her, bubblegum when he came to visit her. But yeah, every time she was caught with that bubblegum, she was beaten pretty severely, to the point that she grew an aversion to the bubblegum. She'd stop taking the bubblegum off of Ward, and it would progress through life that anytime she saw someone with bubblegum, she would make a note of it. She'd point out how much she disliked it to that person, you know?
Okay.
But yeah. So, I mean, as you can see here, her childhood isn't great.
Yeah.
She's already kind of a dark soul coming into things, but on top of it, you've got an alcoholic PTSD father who can be a bit heavy-handed, but again, not uncalled, not unheard of in the 50s.
Yeah.
And then you have a mother on the other side who, to the outside world, is perfect mother, prim and proper, all this kind of shit. But when she's at home, do you know what it's very much like? The Trinity killer in the Dexter story, the Dexter and Morgan.
Yeah.
And where to the outside world everything's perfect, but inside the house it is a real fucked up environment. Yeah. And everything is just a show. That's exactly what it is. You call it a shit show. It was a show. Every time they stepped out of their house, it was a show that was put on for everybody. But inside the house, things were different. And if you didn't put on that show, we will send you somewhere to make sure we beat that show into you. And that was this Christian school that she was sent to.
Okay. And while we know that the daily beatings and abuse did nothing to quash Beverly's bloodlust, it did teach her how to behave in the public eye. Beverly wanted to ensure that she would never be incarcerated again or under anyone's control like she had been in St. Monica's School for Difficult Children. And so the mask went up and stayed up as Beverly worked hard to put on a facade like her parents before her, becoming the picture-perfect lady her mother had always envisioned.
And this is what I'm saying, like when it comes to this idea of like putting on a show, when Beverly comes home from boarding school, a teenager, and June sees her, June's delighted.
Yeah.
Because now here's someone I can start showing off. Here's someone I can bring along with me, you know? And their relationship mellowed a little bit at that point, because June kind of is getting what she wants and Beverly knows how to play the game now to get what she wants.
Yeah.
But on the quiet, Beverly knows that, like a lot of serial killers before her, she knows how to hide the creepy shit. She knows how to put the creepy shit over here, and then in front of everybody else, just smile and act normal and act cool. And this is how I act like a normal person. This is how I do normal people things. When she went to school, she didn't get an education in the normal sense. She got an education of how to be human. Okay. How do I act like everybody else? Yeah. But in the meantime, whereas teenage boys have a Playboy hidden under their mattress, she's got True Crime Weekly hidden under her mattress, and you know, pictures of the latest serial killers or stuff. And they wouldn't have even had serial killers properly at this time. You know, they wouldn't have had the term serial killer. Yeah, in the 50s. I mean, obviously, well, 50s, she was born, so at this point you're talking about 60s. You'd have the likes of Ed Gein popping up and stuff like that, which she would have been extremely interested in. After that, so that was basically her teenage years. She kept things quiet. She still went on killing animals. She still went on harassing people silently and from the side. And she still went on reading and even writing about these, you know, things that are in her mind. Yeah. I mean, her diary is full of her childhood diary is full of very fucked up thoughts and ideas. Stuff that was unearthed later on after they realized what she actually was. But outside that, she went through high school and state college pretty much undetected, seemingly normal, to the point where she met and married a very regular man very normal man who was looking to become a dentist. And his name was Eugene Sutphin.
And so Beverly set into what looked like the perfect picture even of the American dream.
You gotta take 2 shots for that line.
Exactly. Thanks, Amy. Eugene took over his father's dental practice and the pair set up roots in Towson, Baltimore, Maryland. They bought a fine home boasting 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a car garage, and 2 kids, a boy.
2 car garage. That's important for Americans.
They
like that. They want to be able to fit both cars in.
Most Irish ones, you could probably fit 2.5, 3. Just saying. They had 2 kids, a boy and a girl, with the girl, Misty, coming first in September of 1976 and Chip following 2 years later in April of 1978.
They're even such like perfect family name, American family. Misty and Chip.
Yeah.
Chip is the most American fucking... There's nowhere else in this world where you're going to hear somebody called Chip bar America.
Chip short for?
I actually met a guy named Chip before, but I think it was he was Romanian and the name was actually a lot longer. Chip was just the start. It was like Chip Herrera or something like
Charles
that.
or Christopher?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Go away.
Or sometimes it refers to someone who was a chip off the old block.
Yeah, the one Chip I knew, it was extremely short version. It was literally the first 4 letters of his name was Chip, but it was a Romanian name, so it was a lot longer than that.
Very good.
So it was my tattoo artist's brother. His name was Cosman, so you can imagine what the names were like.
Oh, I thought Cosman's brother, his name was Cyprian.
Oh, well, everybody called him
I could
Chip.
be wrong. Oh, yeah, I know, but when you were saying a big, long name, I thought...
Well, it was a name I didn't recognize, right?
Sorry.
Whether it was long, short, or indifferent.
I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong here. I just thought that.
So, obviously, like we said, this is... I mean, Beverly didn't have the same problem as her mother when it came to conceiving, but like I say, the perfect nuclear family here she got. Has 1 girl, 1 boy. She chose to stop. She made the decision of, this is perfect. We have the house. I have the nice, regular husband, with a regular job that makes good money. I can be a regular housewife over here. Nobody's going to pay any attention to me. The only thing is she kind of upped it a level on her true crime and serial killer obsession. Because at this stage, we're heading into the late 70s, early 80s.
Yes.
This is the hate. This is the prime time serial killer stuff. So she, like the rest of the country at that time, or the rest of the world, and definitely the rest of America at that time, were eating it up.
Yeah.
Because you have the likes of Bundy, Gacy, all of them, they're starting to come out of the woodwork now. Son of Sam, Richard Speck, all this stuff. And Richard Speck was one she had a particular love for.
Yeah.
To the point where you could almost call their relationship semi-romantic. Not full-on romantic, but she was definitely sending him love letters. Nice. And he was definitely replying. But as we all know, Richard Speck was on death row and had no chance of getting If you don't know, for those of you who might not know, Richard Speck was an American mass murderer who killed 8 student nurses in their South Deering, Chicago residence via stabbing, strangling, slashing their throats, and a combination of all 3. And that happened on the nights of July 13th and 14th, 1966. Well, the night of morning of July 13th into the 14th, 1966. Speck also raped 1 victim before killing her. A 9th potential victim, student nurse Corazon Amuro, survived by hiding beneath a bed. What kind of a fucking killer are you? You don't think to check under the bed. The most common hiding place. Check the beds, check the closets. Duh. Fuck me. Convicted of all 8 murders on April 15, 1967, Speck was sentenced to death. His sentence was reduced to 400 to 1,200 years in 1972. How is that reduced? That means after you die, you still got to stay in that cell for another 1,000 years or so. This was later reduced again to 100 to 300 years, which means his body would only have to lie. He died on his 50th birthday, so his body would only have to lie around for another 50 to 250 years before they could move it out. It's still there. And that was in Stateville Correctional Center. He died of a heart attack on his 50th birthday. So that was 4 years as well before Beverly's own crimes would commence. It said that the death of Speck would actually kind of
kickstart something for her.
Kind of pushed her on in her dream to be a serial killer herself. That it was kind of once he was gone and she suddenly She had such a connection with Speck that when she started trying to write to other serial killers on death row, she wasn't getting the same kind of connection. Okay. Mainly because guys like Bundy and stuff like that send you back mad shit, like, you know, just send me your tits all slashed up. Pour the fake blood over your vagina and send it to me. Yeah.
Really?
I don't know. I assume that's what Ted Bundy would be into. Can't imagine it like regular porn.
I don't think he'd be too disgusted with himself though to actually request it in a letter. Send the killer.
Listen, come here. I just want to picture your legs with some slashes on it. Oh wait, I can't whisper in the letter. The words are really, really small really in the letter.
But he wouldn't refer to himself as I.
Okay, I have a question for you. If you could talk to any serial killer, you could write a letter to any serial killer, who would it be and why?
Am I getting a response back from them?
Of course, yeah. You're going to start a correspondence with a serial killer.
Oh, none of the modern ones. Probably Elizabeth Bathory that we covered on Mini Monsters one day.
Yeah.
Kind
if
of
it has to be
one.
living, well, what would you pick? Who would you pick?
I can't remember his name. Is the guy that cut off his mother's head? Is he still...
Kemper.
Kemper, he's still alive.
He's still alive, yeah.
Yeah. If
I
I had
he'd
to,
get
like,
a good conversation.
that's what I mean. I reckon he'd be a conversational man, so that's who I send a letter to. But I mean, I don't really want to. If I had to, I'd be back in time, like.
If I could be guaranteed they'd write back and talk to me properly, I'd probably go for the Golden State Killer just so I could get more information out of him. See, I'm interested in guys like him and Dennis Rader, but the thing about it is Dennis Rader's already told us everything, happily, over the top multiple times, and I don't want to have to fill out these stupid fucking forms to get a letter off him. So I'd probably go with the Golden State Killer just to see if I could get extra information out of him.
I think there's
a
a
lot
few
of gaps
of them
there.
that don't fucking, as in like it would turn my stomach. I mean, I know Kempner was no saint either, like, but I mean, like, he doesn't fucking scream evil in his face.
Because you've seen an actor you like play him on TV that seems
I
friendly.
don't know the actor, no, but just from, as in what we know about Kemper, what's been in the media as opposed to the other two. I mean, you've said it yourself, BTK is probably, as in like,
the
there's
most disgusting human that's ever lived.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. But I don't get that from, you know, like stories of like they're awful.
See, that's where we're different. You just want to talk to them like a nice person and have a decent conversation with them. I want to get all the dirty little details.
See, I want someone that's able to hold a fucking conversation, an intelligent conversation.
Yeah. I think I'd want to know, because he hasn't given us a lot, I'd want to know more about his childhood. I'd want to try and question the Golden State Killer, D'Angelo, on his childhood a bit to see what might have got him to the point of where he did. I don't know if I talked much about his killings because we know about his killings. We can read about his killings. They're not exactly kind of hidden away. But to maybe find out what got him there and what caused him to stop and then what caused him to start
I'd be
making
happy
phone
reading a
calls and stuff.
psychiatrist's report. I don't need to degrade myself by speaking to him.
I'm just saying, if you could write to one of these guys and talk to them, what are you going to say to them?
You
know what
you
I mean?
and I need a long, hard chat after
You're not
this.
writing to them to ask them how their day was. Do you know?
You seem very excited by it, that you might be like, as in like,
I
who
think
would
it
you
would
be
an
friends with?
exciting thing to get a
No,
letter
I
from a
mean
serial
like,
killer.
as in with a view to a friendship kind of thing, I thought.
No, I think what you have to do, and you see this a lot with people who write true crime and write these books about these guys, they do have to kind of build up a bit of a friendship with them. They are able to still kind of differentiate between it and say, no, this is just me doing a job. And they think we're friends, and I need them to think we're friendly because that's the only way he's going to trust me and talk to me. And I mean, there's some that have said, well, yeah, I in a way kind of became friendly with him to the point where I can go in, I can have a regular conversation with the man.
Yeah.
And know that he's not going to do anything, but I still know what he's done. He still disgusts me. As soon as I'm done with this book, I'm not going to continue writing to this person. I'm not going to continue taking phone calls from this person. But while I'm talking to them, I have to have a friendly, I can't go in there aggressively or they're not going to give me any fucking information. So you do have to kind of go, you're not going in there going, oh, buddy, I agree with you. Or what you did was justified. But you're going in there kind of like, look, I want to tell your story. I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to listen. I want to try and get to the root of all this and tell your story from your perspective and really kind of try and get them talking at that point. But, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think that works if you go in there going, "Hi, you slimy cunt, get over here, you dirty beggar, you. What were you doing last fucking week when you were down in that woman's house, huh? Raping her? You're a dirty bastard." He's not going to tell you anything.
Clearly.
He's just going to climb up and be like, "Get rid of him." Get him out of here,"
Obviously.
you know?
Yeah.
I'm innocent, I swear. That's the only thing about BTK, that if you were going to question him, at least he's already admitted to everything.
Yeah.
So he's not going to hold back anything.
But do you have anything to talk about
But
then?
he's already kind of told us
Yeah, you
everything.
don't have
Like,
anything
there's
to
nothing
talk about.
really in particular that I'd have any questions about for him, because we know what his childhood was like. We know what his later life was like. He's probably one of the most detailed. I mean, I know Bundy and them are popular, but when it comes to blow by blow what someone was doing, BTK kind of handed it all to us.
Yeah.
Which
True.
is again why I keep saying he loves being fucking the man in jail.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and I do. I'll stick by that for the rest of my life. He came back in 2004 with the goal of killing someone else, realized he was getting too old for it and couldn't manage it anymore, and thought, fuck it, it'll be a better retirement plan for me to come out and just be the face of the brand now.
Probably.
You know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So with her obsession with serial killers brewing away in the background, Beverly settled into her pretend perfect life.
Thing about it is, this is still inside her. Like, she's still, even from a child, she still has this brewing inside her. I mean, the best way I could describe it is, I don't know if anybody's ever read the Dexter books by Jim Lindsay. And he kind of really goes from Dexter's point of view as a serial killer and trying to hide himself and trying to hold up a mask, and what you do then to try and suppress that feeling of wanting to kill something and needing to do it right away and all this kind of stuff, and what she was doing. And you see with a lot of serial killers as well, that they won't just start by going out one day and killing somebody. There is a gradual progression to what they're doing. So it'll start as something small, or in her case, it starts as a child when she's killing animals, but then she starts to learn that she needs to put on this mask, this facade that kind of covers her.
Yeah.
So that becomes less and less, because you can't have people asking where all the pets are going.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's trying to kind of figure out, and for a period of time, it seems, from like when she went to college to when she got married and had the kids, there was an awful lot of her trying to hold this feeling back completely repress it. And what actually ends up happening is she tries to find some hobbies to keep her busy. The main one being bird watching. She loved bird watching, but there's an ulterior motive to that as well. And I'll tell you about this in a minute, but she did go back killing animals eventually. But also threatening phone calls, letters.
Yeah.
And I mean, she'd do the letters proper fucking kidnapping style, you know, like she cut out all the letters from the magazines and stick them in and all this stuff. And this started originally with threatening phone calls and letters to TV, radio, papers, anywhere where they displayed media that she found offensive.
Okay.
That went against her principles as a good lady.
Yeah.
Proper lady, proper housewife, proper mother, you know? Which kind of brings us to her moral compass, because that's what it is with her. She's very much like Hannibal.
Yeah.
Do you remember we were watching Hannibal, and his thing was, if you were rude or broke etiquette in any way, shape, or form, you could be on the chopping block next.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of the way she decided how she liked or disliked somebody.
If you're good table manners.
Yeah. If you did something that she saw as offensive. So you and me would have no hope around this woman.
I'm not offensive.
No, but we're
I've
not
got
your
etiquette.
typical family. We don't do your typical kind of... We're not this.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, we don't... I don't know how to describe. We're just not your typical fucking... Even though we are a couple with two. Number one, we're not married and we got 2 kids.
Would that have been a problem for her?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, that would have
there you
been
go.
seen as a lower class thing to do. She'd be fine with it if we lived in a lower class area, but we don't live in a lower class area. We live in a very middle class area. So for us to be here would be an issue.
I know more people with kids unmarried than more people with kids that
But
are
again, this
married.
is the early
anymore.
90s.
That's true.
It wasn't as commonplace. It
Yeah.
would start to become more commonplace, but she didn't like it. And And it kind of started, but this starts pushing her closer and closer to her fantasies, because eventually she takes the attention off of TV and radio and papers, kind of realizing she's not going to have any control over the media.
Yeah.
You know, this kind of moms against violence on the internet, on the TV. It's not going to work. It never works. And she realizes this very quick. She's a smart, intelligent lady. And somebody else, anyway, closer to her, started pissing her off. So she's going to take it out on that person instead. But before I get to that, I will tell you the bird watching hobby, because this was a huge thing with her, apparently. She really loved the bird watching hobby. It started because she realized that the neighborhood cats were also avid bird watchers. And that if she watched close enough and watched the cats and learned their behavior in her yard when they're coming for these birds, she lays out food for so that the birds will come down, she can then trap the cats and go to work on them with her frustrations.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of the actual idea behind the bird watching.
Okay.
It wasn't so much that she loved birds, it was that the birds
track
were
down the cats.
they were good bait. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
And it helped her get something out of her. But like I said, this all kind of started to push on further and further. And when she realized the cats weren't enough and that the media weren't going to change, she started focusing on her own surroundings and her own social circle. Because again, I don't know if you agree with this, but I do think that when you have these people who are maybe upper middle class and upper class onwards, Beverly's parents weren't the only people putting on a show back in the day. People who see themselves as this kind of middle upper class or upper class.
They all put on a show.
Yeah, they feel like they have to keep up appearances.
Fucking notions.
Yeah, they have to keep up appearances amongst each other. So if she saw anybody slipping on keeping up the appearances, she would take offense. Or if somebody slighted her. Now, the first person that she really zoned in on was a neighbor named Dottie Hinckley.
Yes.
And do you want to know what Dottie did to offend Beverly?
Go on.
Now, first of all, she got divorced, which to Beverly was a no-no. That wasn't cool. You shouldn't be a divorced woman, you know, especially at her age.
Yeah.
Dottie's in her late 40s at this point, mid 40s.
Ancient.
You know, shouldn't be doing that. But that wasn't the thing that clinched it. She already had a bug up her arse about Dottie. And then one day she was in the car park of the local grocery store going to do the big shop. And she was about to pull into her space when Dottie got there first. Went down the wrong way. Do you know, I hate those people
that go down.
Follow the arrows, people.
Just to get to that fucking... Yeah.
And Dottie went down
That
the
would've
wrong
pissed me
way
off.
against the arrow and pulled into the spot before Beverly could get it, who was going down the right way, doing things the right way.
And that's when you play chicken and speed up to see who's going to get there first and will the other person stop.
Well, Dottie got there, pretended like she didn't see Beverly and walked off. And this pissed Beverly off enough to make Dottie her first target. Now, still not really willing to go all the way with the killing, Dottie started getting extremely offensive phone calls and a lot of threatening letters in the door.
And she was not going to take the abuse lying down. And even at her wit's end with the threats, she decided to do something about it. And she contacted the police, showing them the vile letters she had been receiving in the post and giving detailed accounts of the phone calls and their content.
So the police visit Dottie to take a look at all this stuff. And we reckon this is kind of almost what, this is pretty much the breaking point for Beverly. This is what kickstarts her. Because again, for people who are used to police, they're used to police and they don't panic as wildly as people who aren't used to seeing police come into their door. I mean, like, I think everybody has that notion of when you see a cop come up to you, whether you've done something right or wrong, you're instantly nervous.
Oh, well, you could be getting bad news as well. Like,
you know, you're instant, but you know, especially in a car, if you're in a car and you're driving, even though it's all legal and you're not doing anything wrong, and a cop car comes up behind you, you stiffen up. You're like, shit, 210, you know, and you're driving as fucking steady and as slow as you possibly can until they go around you and fuck off. But it's the same kind of thing here, whereas Beverly sees the cops come over these threatening letters and these threatening phone calls. And while she's able to keep her cool around the police officers, in her brain, she's thinking, well, that's it. They're going to do me for this now. I might as well go fucking whole hog. If I'm going to get done for something, I might as well go get done for something I want to do. So, you know, this is kind of where the problem starts. So it's believed at this point, the police sniffing around her drove her to believe that it was now or never for her to finally let loose and to let her real self true for the first time.
Yeah.
But not until she let Daddy know that the police couldn't stop her torture.
Okay.
No. The funny thing about it is, like, I've seen transcripts of this kind of stuff that Beverly would be saying to Daddy.
Mm.
And apparently the big word that Beverly kept saying that made Daddy so uncomfortable.
Mm.
And some girls don't like it. Some girls don't mind it. I usually use it as a term of telling someone they're being a big old wuss.
Oh, pussy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Were you letting me say it just to...
No, I
as
was
in,
just about to say it.
Oh, all right. I thought you didn't want to say it, just in case.
I can't say it. Not with a girl around.
Let the girls.
Yeah. So Daddy was real slow to tell the cops what the word was, but she had a letter of it with the word pussy plastered across. What was it again? Pussy get out, or pussy I'm coming to get you, or something along those I'm gonna get you, pussy. I can't remember. It's something along those lines. So when the cops leave and the family go off to school and work, apparently Daddy claims she got one more phone call that morning, and it would have been around the time when everyone was going to, so about 8ish, half 8ish.
Yeah.
And same kind of thing.
Okay.
But it was again like, cops ain't gonna help you, you pussy ass bitch, I'm coming for you kind of shit, like, and I'm gonna get you and all this stuff. And she's freaking Daddy out. Because, I mean, you're a single woman living at home alone in America. You get phone calls and like that. We talked about BTK and the Night Stalker, the original Night Stalker, the Golden State Killer, D'Angelo. And this is something both of them do. BTK loved writing letters and making phone calls. And
So did
fuck
D'Angelo.
me, D'Angelo used to do it to them decades after the crime. Like, you think you're done with D'Angelo and suddenly you get a phone call and it's the same kind of fucking stuff as what Beverly be doing, and it's, I'm gonna get you, bitch. Oh, I mean, I had played that.
Oh, no,
it's
I've heard
so
it.
fucking
Oh,
creepy.
fucking
And, you know, you just like, remember me, remember we played and all this kind of stuff. It's so fucking creepy. Especially when you get, how do you ever get over it? Because every time you think you're there, you pick up the phone and it could be him. Do you know? So you know he's still out there until those phone calls
Change
stop
your name.
completely. You know he's still there. He's not dead. He's not gone. He's not in jail.
Yep.
He's making it known that I can come back and get you anytime I fucking want.
Absolutely.
So after this phone call, Beverly has got to go to the school because there's a parent-teacher meeting on that morning with the maths teacher,
Okay.
a man by the name of Paul Stubbins.
Yep.
And he was Chip's maths teacher.
Okay.
She went in, told that Chip was doing pretty well with his schoolwork, but he had an unhealthy obsession with horror.
Why should that concern you? If he's just your maths teacher, why is it concerning him?
He felt that it was taking his attention away from school, that he was too obsessed with these horror movies, his violence, and that it was, and according to Mr. Stubbins, the violence that Chip enjoys really reflects on the household and on the parenting, which Beverly did not like one little fucking bit, especially since Beverly grew up the exact same way, enjoying horror movies.
She turned out fine.
Exactly. She turned out to be a well-adjusted adult.
Exactly.
But this is it. As we say, that morning, she had made up her mind that she was done playing. She was done pretending, and this was her opportunity here. Someone had slighted her. Someone had insulted her family, insulted her mothering, insulted insulted her son. It was time to do something about it. So this is, from what we know, Beverly's first human murder.
Okay.
She waited outside, seething in the car, really fucking working herself up and getting angry. And she sees Mr. Stubbins leave the building and walk to his own car.
Okay.
She had a quick glance around, didn't see anybody. But as we're going to learn in a few minutes, Beverly sucks at fucking looking for witnesses. Because I'm pretty sure all but one of her crimes were witnessed.
Or maybe she just didn't give a shit anymore.
And she plowed Mr. Stubbins down with her car and then reversed over him to finish the job. This was witnessed by a student named Luann Hodges, who was one of the school's stoner. Do you know how they have like their little groups over there?
They're
she was in the
stoner
stoner
clique.
group.
Okay.
So she was there on her own before class, smoking a spliff. And she witnessed everything go down.
Ooh. News of the teacher's slaying broke that evening and dominated the newscast in the small, shocked suburb of Towson. No one could figure out who would do such a thing, with the violent crime rate in Towson being virtually non-existent. But it wouldn't take long for eyes to turn to Beverly, as Luann Hodges had identified the offending car as being a blue station wagon, and only one parent of Mr. Stubbins' students drove such a car. And the cops would figure out with a quick check of DMV records. And the next morning, Beverly and the rest of the Sutphins would wake up to find lead detectives Walt Gracie and Scott Pike snooping around their property.
So, obviously, they're looking for the car.
Yeah.
They want to check out the car.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from what we know of Beverly's movements that morning, as soon as she left the school, she went straight to a car wash.
To wash everything off.
To have everything cleaned off. But the car still matched the description
Of course it did.
of the car. And like
Can't
you
wash
said,
the blue off.
they had a bit of a fucking inkling about her the morning before when they met her and they were talking to her about Dottie. And then they come back over it. They're pretty fucking sure that
That's her.
there's something funny about this lady. You know,
Okay.
there's something not right about this woman.
Yeah.
And they can't figure it out. But the car is too much to overlook at this point. She might play the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect lady, but there is something. I mean, there's only one person with a blue station wagon whose kid goes to that school, whose kid goes to that class, whose kid's teacher is Mr. Stubbins, and that is
Who
Beverly
said it had to be a
Sutphin.
parent, though? That it was.
Huh?
Who said it was definitely a parent? Could have been anybody.
But
with a
if you're
station
going to
wagon.
look at who it could possibly be,
usually somebody
on
known
Parent
to,
Teacher
like,
Day.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true. Yeah.
the parents are around the place. She was around the place at that time. She had not long left his office.
Yeah, true.
You know, so I mean, or his classroom. So they know she was in the area. It makes sense,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
On top of that, while they were talking to her, they noticed a magazine on the table, Pageant magazine, except at the moment it was being called, you could have called it Agent because it was missing the P.
Nice.
And what's P, this first letter in?
Pussy.
Pussy. And they clicked that. But Beverly was smart. I've already said this. She's an intelligent woman. She knows how to cover her tracks. She's been practicing for a lifetime for this moment. And again, we'll see this. Like I said earlier on, fine, she saw the cops for the first time and thought, I better go now before fucking my days are numbered and I'm going to get caught.
Yeah.
But by the time we get to the end of the story, you're going to realize that this woman is a master manipulator. She knows exactly where everything is going and she knows exactly how to deal with it. And if you ask anybody that was there around this happening, any witnesses and all that stuff, she looked cool as a fucking cucumber, start to finish, smiling, confidently, cockily at most time. People said she was cocky looking when the cops were even around her, when the cops started closing on her.
Yeah.
She did not give a fuck. But she had herself covered here because the magazine didn't belong to her. It belonged to another neighbor named Rosemary Ackerman. And Rosemary, how do we describe Rosemary? Rosemary's your typical
Knows everywhere.
busybody fucking neighbor who is the biggest gossip
Likes
in
to stir
town.
the pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she loved hanging out with Beverly, but she'd go over to Dottie then and talk shit about Beverly, and then come
Of course she
over
would.
from Dottie's and talk shit about Dottie to Beverly, and so on, so on and so fucking forth.
Yeah.
But Beverly, and we're going to see this as we go on, I'll point out the instances. Beverly's not stupid. Beverly's kind of setting Rosemary up to take her fall for her if it comes to that direction. So straight off the mark, that's not my magazine. I recycle my magazines. That is Rosemary Ackerman's magazine. You'll see this subscription below. She gave me a loan of it.
Okay.
So no, it's not her magazine, it's Rosemary's. And we'll see that push on. Now, as we know, this was going to be a busy weekend for Beverly. And once the cops were gone, she decided she was going to stir the pot a little.
Okay.
And she went to Dottie Hinckley, who, for lack of a better word, she's been a bit of a media whore over the years.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds bad, but she's been mad. She loves doing fuck.
Yeah.
Whereas Beverly won't do an interview for you. You'll get Dottie for a hot dog and $20 and she'd be happy. So she's been doing interviews. She's never shied away from interviews, especially paying interviews. And she claims that around 10:20 that same morning, Beverly came to Rosemary Ackerman's house where the two women were having a liquid lunch. And she claims that Beverly took the opportunity to covertly reveal herself to Dottie as her tormentor. So what happens here is apparently oh, that was it. She came in and she said Mrs. Ackerman, Rosemary, had, coincidentally enough, a big bouquet of pussy willows in her house.
Yeah.
And when she saw it, she couldn't help herself. So she points out the flowers, says, they're lovely. What are they? And Mrs. Ackerman stands up, goes over to them, oh, they're pussy willows. And she turns around, looks at Daddy and goes, oh, pussy willows. And make sure to say it in the right inflection to get Daddy's attention. And she did get Daddy's attention. Daddy realised it instantly. The minute she heard pussy, she was like, fuck me, you bitch.
Shouldn't take her parking spot.
But Beverly's not going to sit there and wait for this to all kind of unravel into a big argument. She knocks over because, again, keeping up appearances and looking good. Rosemary liked to have a lot of little knickknacks around her house, and she liked Fabergé eggs. So Beverly knocked over a Fabergé egg, turned while Rosemary's back was turned, and screams, Daddy, what are you doing? And she goes, oh, Daddy, you're such an idiot and all this kind of stuff. Clean up the mess. And then she kind of grabs Mrs. Ackerman, Rosemary, and leaves her out of the house and says, come on, I'm going to bring you down to the local market. We'll get you a new one. Oh, silly Daddy, whatever. And Daddy's still flustered and trying to come to terms with the fact that this is this woman that's lived across the road from me. She's the one that's tormenting me for the last couple of years. And I have to try and, beat this bitch. Basically. So, yeah.
And as all this went down at home, Eugene was at work taking care of an emergency dental appointment made by future victims of Beverly, Ralph and Betty Sterner. He would be interrupted by detectives Gracie and Pike, who had questions about Beverly's chosen reading material, something Eugene was completely unaware of.
Now, if this was good enough to be evidence back in the 90s, I would have been in big trouble in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Because I love I just love reading crime shit. Especially like murders, serial killers, mafia. Love the mafia. I'd read about the mafia, Irish gangsters, all this kind of stuff. But that's essentially what she got caught with, was a bunch of true crime books. Yeah. One of them being Helter Skelter. I'm pretty sure I have Helter Skelter upstairs.
Helter Skelter's upstairs, yeah.
And that was the problem. But the problem here was that she had been hiding it. She didn't want people to know that she was interested in this stuff.
Okay.
And she basically would have a big fucking bird watching book open, like you'd see in movies and TV shows, and she'd have the other where a kid would be at school and had his comic inside his school book. She'd do the same thing, but with like true crime books.
Okay.
And she loved getting clippings from the newspaper about the latest killer or the latest true crime story or whatever.
Yeah.
At first, Eugene tries to kind of deny it. He's like, nah, not my Beverly. You're crazy. Where are you getting this from? But when he was shown receipts and stubs from the checks used to, or the cards used to pay for this stuff, he was kind of like, well, yeah, that is Beverly's card number.
No denying it.
Sure is, yep. So he gets away from them, gets himself home, and starts snooping around the bedroom himself. And he does find stuff. He starts finding all the letters she's been sending to these death row guys. The love letters between her and Richard Speck. Books, newspaper clippings, photographs, all very graphic in nature.
Yeah.
And he starts to panic a little bit because, it's like, uh-oh. And meanwhile, while he's sitting there, he hears the news and there's been another killing.
Yep, there has. Because meanwhile, Beverly was at the antique mart flea market with Rosemary to try and find a replacement Fabergé egg for the one Dottie had allegedly broken, and to help Misty with her own little stall that she had set up to sell vintage toys and records.
So Rosemary is pissing about looking for a Fabergé egg. Apparently, and I only know this because it does play into the murder afterwards, she couldn't, the one she had found was too expensive. She wasn't going to, there was a chip in it, and she wasn't willing to pay full whack for a chipped Fabergé egg. So she picked up a kind of vintage fire poker instead.
Okay.
For $3, which she said was a bit of a deal, bit of a steal.
Okay.
And she brought it back to the stall. She was just hanging out with Beverly at that point, trying to help sell stuff. Yeah. And Beverly put the fire poker away from her, her under the table, under the stall. So don't be safe while they were there. Now, Misty was there, but she was supposed to be there with a boy named Carl. She fancied this guy named Carl. Carl Pageant. Oh, funny. Pageant magazine earlier on. I wonder did she take the pee out of Carl as well. Anyway, Carl was quite... No, if you ask Carl, he was never going out with Misty. If you ask Misty, they were on the verge of becoming exclusive.
So they weren't exclusive.
Yes. According to Carl, they weren't together at all. They were friends.
Okay.
See, the thing about it was Misty was a little heavy.
Oh.
Small bit heavy. Not very... But in the 90s, she would have been seen as heavy. Because in the 90s, they believed in size 0.
Heroin chic is what they believed.
Yeah. Not for me. But anyway, Carl was supposed to come and help Misty that morning at the mart, at the flea mart. And he never turned up. Stood her up. And that was all cool. But he then showed up at the flea market with another slimmer, blonder girl.
What a prick.
I know. And Beverly was not best pleased with all this.
I wouldn't be pleased with that. Are you serious?
She didn't want Misty to see it either. So Misty, she was trying to hide it from Misty, but at the same time, she sees Carl and she's not happy and she decides, done it once. Might as well go again.
One more time couldn't hurt.
Yeah. To hear her describe it, because she did do one big kind of... The story was told by her once. And we'll get into it later who actually holds the rights to all this. Because it's just her kids that kind of deal with all this kind of stuff now. And she kind of relates the story through the kids a lot of the time. And if you're to hear, Chip is the main one to tell the story. And if you're to hear Chip describe how Beverly apparently describes this scene, it's almost like she was stalking her prey.
Okay.
She saw Carl. He didn't see her. And they were on different aisleways of the mart. And she was watching him slowly as he made his way through to wait for the perfect moment where he was on his own and she could pounce.
Okay.
The whole time she's holding the fire poker. And there are witnesses that have seen her walking through the mart holding the fire poker in her hand.
Okay.
He was found with his... What was ripped out again?
Liver.
His liver was ripped out. Dead in a urinal.
Yeah.
And just like before, there was a witness. 2 murders, 2 witnesses. This one was Marvin Pickles. But Marvin would later turn out to be not a very good witness. And when I tell you why he was in there to begin with, and he was known for this shit, and this is why we know this stuff. Marvin was in there because that bathroom stall was commonly used as a glory hole. But he had been arrested there multiple times. So when police showed up there and he was standing outside the door screaming there was a woman that did it inside, they were willing to listen to him because they knew he probably was in that stall. And he probably was peeping through that hole waiting for something to come through it and didn't expect to see a girl on the other side of that hole. But at the same time, they were worried because Marvin had a few convictions for this kind of behavior.
So he could be an unreliable witness.
They weren't 100% sure what was going on. But at 11:30, the body was found. They did talk to him, but they weren't 100% sure. But at the same time, when Gracie and Pike turn up and they hear this guy Carl is dead, this guy Carl who used to be kind of friendly with Misty, and Beverly is in the building, and we have a man saying he saw a woman with a fire poker in the fucking stall. They're thinking, well, this has to be fucking Beverly. So they're almost certain it's Beverly at the same time. And at the same time, then we'll get into it later when she starts snitching. But Mrs. Ackerman Rosemary later say that she put her hand on the fire poker when all the commotion started, when she saw all the crowds of people into the bathroom. Yeah. And she took her hands off and she said there was red stuff on her finger. And she looked down at Beverly's shoe and she described it. She won't say that it was blood in her shoe. She'd always say, how does she say? I've heard it in an interview before. It's like
red ochre.
She was like, there was something on her shoe, blood in her shoe. No, gore on her shoe. And then she's really fucking shrill like that too. And she'd only describe it as gore after that there was gore on her shoe. But yeah, the police were pretty fucking sure at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
This is our woman. She's now killed 2 people. She's harassed another one. We're getting kind of, every time we get a bit closer to her, someone else dies and she pushes back a little bit. It's, and I mean, on top of that, they're not the only one thinking it.
Oh,
because Eugene's at home. He's just heard this murder come through the newswire after he's found a load of fucking memorabilia that his wife owns. Misty also starts to get suspicious. Yeah. Because when she comes back to the stall and tells Beverly what's going on, Beverly is completely indifferent about it. Yeah. Yeah. To the point of this morning, she basically said this morning when you were sitting in the kitchen, You said you hoped he'd die when he stood you up. And now you got your wish. Do you know?
Yeah.
So instantly Misty's like, oh shit. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Maybe the cops are right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
maybe they
maybe.
should have been questioning mom about this stuff. And she runs straight off the Chip to tell him, to try and tell him. In the meantime, Eugene is at home trying to process this stuff as well and work out, is my wife crazy or is she just a serial killer group?
Yes. Yeah. And obviously they plan to broach the subject that night then at dinner with their suspicions growing.
That was the plan. Again, they sat down. Everything to that point was normal. You know, Beverly comes home. She starts making her big dinner like she does every night. She's cleaning the house like she always does, doing her, pottering around the place as if nothing strange was happening around the town.
Yeah.
The family are extremely nervous. Chip, not so much, because Chip felt the whole thing was a joke.
Okay.
You know, he hadn't seen what Misty had seen. He hadn't seen what Eugene had seen.
Yeah.
And to him, this was just all fun and games. Because he's a horror nerd. He's like us. He just thinks, hey, it's like a real life horror. This is awesome. And funny, kind of playing it off and just to kind of try and get the conversation going. He turns around, he blames his friend Scotty. Now, Chip had kind of two best friends. He had Scotty and his girlfriend Birdie.
Okay.
And Birdie and Chip were very close. Like they were almost like they were best friends before they were together. Like, And Scotty, I think we've all had that friend like Scotty, right? Where that one friend who is just obsessed with boobs and nudes. So when you're a teen, that one kid that's obsessed with Playboy.
Yeah.
And can't stop talking about the pair of jugs he saw on Bravo last night. Like, And Scotty was that guy. So he was crude, he was rude, and everything Beverly hated. But she put up with him because it was Chip's friend and Chip liked him and sure what harm. Like I said, we all have friends like that. So she just played it off. He's a kid. They'll go to college and they'll lose contact. I don't have to worry about Scotty. But Chip, to try and broach the subject of what Beverly might be up to, made a joke to see how she'd react and said, oh, well, Scotty thinks you're the serial killer. It didn't go down so well because instead of her laughing it off, she said, oh, he does she? And then stood up from the table and walked off.
Excused herself.
Yes. They didn't really know what she was playing at this point. And to this point, at this point in the story for me, this feels like the point where she should have gotten arrested because I think it becomes very obvious that even if they didn't arrest her for fucking murder, they could have, you know how cops like to arrest you for something else to hold you there so you can't commit a crime while they try and test the DNA and stuff like that. They fucked up here because they didn't do that. They kind of left her off while they were trying to figure out the DNA and all that. They knew, even when they knew it was her, they kind of had to wait to verify stuff because of who she was and her standing and all that kind of stuff. But so she gets up from the table, walks into the kitchen, doesn't come back. Few minutes pass, Misty goes in to check what she's up to, and there is a note in the fridge saying, gone to the shops, be back soon. Family goes into panic. Because it's like, oh shit, she's going to go kill Scotty. And they run out to the car, jump into the car, their second car, and drive off, trying to follow her to see if they can stop her from killing Scotty. So they're bombing it towards Scotty's house. In the meantime, Beverly is also bombing it down the road. She's got a cop car who was assigned to the house to watch to make sure she didn't get up to anything following her. So she is driving at a high pace. So they could have arrested her right here for her dangerous driving. Yeah. And they get to a fork in the road. One fork leads to Scotty's house. The other fork leads to another home of a family friends of this kind of family friends, family acquaintances of the Sutphins.
Okay.
The the Sterners. And she turns off towards the Sterners. But she does it in such a high pace that by the time the cop gets around the corner to the fork in the bend, he doesn't know which route she's taking.
Okay.
And then he sees the family follow past and they are heading towards Scotty's house. So he assumes they're chasing her to stop her from doing something. So he starts following them instead, basically giving Beverly freedom to do whatever the fuck she wants because she's after getting away from her tail and from the family. So the cops pursue the Sutphins to Scotty's house. And when they get to Scotty's house, they hear a lot of moaning and crying and noise coming from his bedroom. So the cops burst through the family, burst through the door, and unfortunately, they found Scotty doing what he was always bragging about. Watching big boobies on the TV and taking care of himself. Nice. Embarrassing. Imagine that. Being in the middle of doing that and suddenly a bunch of cops come in. Especially if you're a teenager. You get it because when you're a teenager and you do that, you feel guilty afterwards anyway. So if the cops came in while you were doing it, be like, no, it is a crime. I knew it. Anyway, while this distraction was going on at Scotty's house, Beverly was up to something a little more nefarious. Yeah. No, like we said, people have to fucking offend her to make her want to do what she does. And the Sterners were quite possibly, when I've heard a description of them and seen pictures of them, I can understand where her issue was.
Okay.
Because while these people had similar amounts of money and therefore similar material items and similar social standings with country clubs and all this kind of shit to Beverly, they were disgusted. They were nasty. Betty Sterner was a loudmouth who had an opinion about everything. The best way to describe it is they would have voted for Trump if they were still around now.
Yeah.
And Ralph Sterner was gluttonous is the only way I could describe him. Ate to excess, lived to excess, big belly, fucking rotten teeth. Didn't really give a fuck about it. These are the kind of people who eat with their hands, who burp at the table, who, they're just not... I don't know how to describe them properly. To give you, they're just not nice people. They're rude.
Like the twits.
They're rude. They don't really, they don't have good etiquette.
Okay.
But on top of that, we discussed that Eugene was at work that morning on a Saturday, and it was an emergency. He came in to do an emergency job on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And the thing about it was the emergency was on Ralph Sterner. But Ralph had Ralph was trying to get Eugene and Eugene was trying to put it off. Betty got on the phone and browbeat Eugene into coming in to take care of the problem on his day off.
Wouldn't happen now.
But Eugene had promised Beverly that they'd go out that morning to go bird watching. Especially go bird watching out. They'd go for a drive. They'd find a nice spot.
So it was
that got cancelled. And she blamed the Sterners for it. And when she got there and saw them eating dinner in the gluttonous form that they do with their hands and overeating, too much food, too much greasy, saturated fat food and all this kind of stuff, she was like, well, I'm making the right decision here.
Yeah.
Scotty can wait.
She's completely justified.
Yes. So she snuck into the house, stabbed Betty Sterner with a scissors, and then was caught by Ralph Sterner, who tried to make a break for it. Beverly, being a quick thinker, got to the window where she found a loose air conditioning unit, and just as Ralph ran out the front door screaming, she dropped the unit right in his head, killing him dead. Now, the interesting thing here again is the scissors used in the murder were not Beverly's scissors. They weren't even Betty's scissors. They were Rosemary Ackerman's scissors.
So she's really trying to frame her.
So now we got the letters, which were written using the magazines of Rosemary Ackerman. We have the fire poker, which was owned by Rosemary Ackerman. And we got scissors, which were owned by Rosemary Ackerman.
Yes.
So she's trying to kind of play up here that couldn't be me, it's Rosemary. So I think she does once in court kind of try and call out, but she does it in a kind of fun way to kind of prove that, it could be you just as much as me. Or, it's all coincidence kind of stuff. She didn't really go 100% in on the making her a patsy thing. But to me, it seems like the whole time she's doing this, she did have a plan A and a plan B. And one of those plans were, I'm just going to put it all on Rosemary.
Yeah. And as all this was going on, detectives Gracie and Pike were busy taking statements from Dottie Hinkle and Rosemary, closing the net on Beverly. Police took the fire poker used to kill Carl into evidence and went to work matching the fingerprints found on Beverly's true crime books to that on the poker.
Now, I will tell you, right? Now, first of all, right, before I get into what I was going to say, because I don't think they actually proved shit here. And I don't even think we'll get to how how she manipulates the court case. But I actually think a regular solicitor, like a regular lawyer, could have gotten her off as well, because I don't actually think the evidence is all that fucking hot against her. First of all, there was major egg on their face, on all the police department's faces over the stern.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mainly because you had one cop that was assigned to sit there and watch her. And in the meantime, the 2 lead detectives are in the fucking neighborhood taking
Down a masturbating
taking interviews from the other 2.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, she slipped out from the house in between these other 2 houses, walked off, killed 2 people, and came back and served dessert for the dinner. Do you know?
Incompetence, yeah.
So, I mean, like, it really kind of fucking made them look like fools. It made the police department look like fools, and they weren't going to be made look like fools. So we kind of get into what they did while they were waiting for evidence to come back. But what they were doing was they felt like the smartest move would be, like I said, because of who Beverly was, because of her image, and because of her standing, it wouldn't look good to arrest a mother and a homemaker with such a good reputation and then turn out to be wrong. So they wanted to make 100% sure they had her before arresting her, so there could be no comeback on them, no kind of, oh, what are you doing? This is nice. They wanted to have the solid proof of no, she did it.
Yeah.
And the way they were going to get this proof was they planned, like you said, to take fingerprints from the true crime books and fingerprints from the fire poker murder weapon to match them and then say that she was the killer. I think this is a problem because we've already established before the murder, she took the fire poker from Rosemary and put it underneath the stall. Beverly's fingerprints were on that fire poker before the murder happened.
But so would have Ackerman's.
Yeah, they would. But in court, how can you prove that those fingerprints were from the time when it was used as a murder weapon or the time when she just...
Were the fingerprints in blood?
Huh? Well, why would her fingerprints be in blood? If she's stabbing, she's not going to be holding
Yeah,
the
but you
in.
said when Rosemary picked up the fire poker that there was blood on it.
Well, she
so
put her
obviously...
hand down and touched the fire poker. I didn't specify what part she touched. She touched the bloody end.
Who touched the bloody end?
Ackerman. Rosemary.
Oh, so Rosemary touched the bloody end of the poker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
but there still could be blood on it. Like, you know, they might be lucky enough to get fingerprints and blood.
Maybe. But it was never specified in anything I've read about it. All they said was they were looking for the fingerprints from the true crime books and from the fire poker.
Yeah.
So to me, that would have to
No, what I mean is if she had fingerprints and blood on it, it would prove that she was holding it after the fact.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I didn't see that being specified. Maybe I missed that. Maybe I skipped over me. But either way, this is what they were waiting for.
Okay.
But they weren't going to let themselves be made a fool of again. Or at least they didn't think they were going to let themselves be made a fool of again. So to combat Beverly's little trips out at night, high-speed trips out at night and losing cops, they put a whole convoy of cops on her. I mean, like, she came out Sunday morning, brazenly came out, dressed for church, ready to go to fucking church, knowing the whole town were talking about this murder, knowing the whole town suspected her. She happily, with a smile on her face, came out the next morning, got in the car to go to church. But she was followed along to church by no less than 10 patrol cars and Pike and Gracie in there.
Just to be sure.
Car. Yeah.
Okay.
Just let everybody fucking know who she was.
Yeah. And if the convoy of police cars wasn't enough, police decided to let it slip to the media that Beverly was their main suspect in the murders that had horrified Towson, something Beverly was well aware of as she made her way to church. And it's believed now she went to church intentionally to revel in the terror that she had caused amongst her neighbours. Witnesses said that she smiled and waved at all the usual suspects as she made her way into the service, and some say she even looked smug, enjoying her newly found infamy.
But I've said this, she was fucking delighted with this shit. This is like BTK in the fucking courthouse making his full confession.
Yeah.
This was, you know, the moment to enjoy all of her work. That's the way she saw it.
Yeah.
And because she was still in the mindset of, I'm not getting caught. I'm not going to get caught. I mean, like, that is the big change from, like, the kickoff. When it's kicked off 2 days earlier with the letters, and she thought, oh, I better do this now or never because they're going to fucking close in on me. that attitude suddenly changed once she had killed 4 fucking people and no one had been able to do shit about it.
Yeah.
And now it was, they're never catching me. Fuck them. Then I can do what I want. And she's kind of brazenly walking into this place while police are still waiting. I mean, like, at this point, police are minutes, if not an hour or two away from being able to make the arrest. They're literally waiting for the lab results to come back.
Okay.
So they leave her walk into the church. She goes in, they're having mass, and they decide, they get the confirmation while she's in church. We have it. Her fingerprints are on both. Go in there and make the arrest. So all of the cops start piling into the church, but they're doing it respectfully because no one wants to upset Jesus.
Yeah.
And they're making their way in slowly through the service. People are standing up, people are sitting down, they're trying to wiggle their way into seats as they go along, trying to get closer to Beverly. Beverly knows they're getting closer and causes a distraction. Now, everybody is on high tension at this point. Everybody in the church is staring at this woman and they are fucking, fight or flight is really taking hold here, and a lot of these people are ready to fly.
Okay.
And Beverly lets out a loud sneeze. This loud sneeze causes people to erupt in panic. Like screaming, losing their fucking mind. And Beverly takes this as a chance to slip out a side door.
Was it a real sneeze or fake sneeze?
I don't know.
Okay.
Do not know.
Okay.
There is a lady who claims that her baby got a face full of snot, but I don't know if she was right in front of her.
Probably just trying to vilify her even more.
Yeah. And get her 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
What part did
I'll
you
never
play in
watch
the
my
Serial Mom
baby's face
story?
again.
Anyway, she took the opportunity to skip out the side door. Chip and Birdie saw this happening and followed along because they wanted to try and get her out of here too. Now, Chip and Birdie herself would later say that to her at the time, because they were horror obsessed and because she knew Beverly so well from being with Chip for so long, that the idea of Beverly being an actual killer to her seemed very unrealistic. And to her, it felt like she was in a new slasher movie and she was enjoying it, reveling in it because she trusted Mrs. Sutcliffe.
Okay.
Sutphin. And Mrs. Sutphin. So she kind of at first sees this as all fun and games.
Yeah.
And they're helping get her out of the churchyard. And they bring her to the video store where Chip and Birdie work. And they hide her in the little office at the back while they try and decide what to do. In the meantime, they get their first customer of the day, and it's a little old lady named Mrs. Emma Lou Jensen.
Okay.
And Emma Lou she wasn't one of those pleasant old people you meet.
She's one of the cranky old people.
A bit of a busybody as well, stuck in her ways is the way I'd say it. And according to Chip, she came in, she brought back a movie she had rented. This will tell you the type of person Emma Lou Jensen is, because I even know what movie she rented. And she was a big old Bill Cosby fan. Ghost Dad was the last movie she had rented.
Yeah?
Yeah. No, I can't really say nothing. I don't like Bill Cosby as a person, but growing up, I loved the Cosby Show. So I mean,
Yeah.
Anyway, she was a repeated offender of the Be Kind Rewind rule. She never rewound. Never rewound. And apparently in America, they got fines for that.
Yeah, they
They
do.
don't have that over here back in the movie days. They just didn't give a shit.
No. Well, did you ever? I think there was a thing on it asking you to rewind it, but
I don't know. The amount of movies I rented that needed to be rewound myself.
broke their heart.
No, but I mean, like, I'd rent out the movie and I'd get it and it would. I'd have to rewind it before watching it. Irish video stores didn't give that much of a shit about it. They just took it in whatever state.
Oh, you'd have to rewind it. Yeah. I remember having to do the same with the DVDs when they came out.
So anyway, Emma Lou Jensen is a serial offender of the Be Kind Rewind rule.
Yeah.
And she hadn't been doing it. And Chip had reprimanded her for a few times. They kind of said, look, you got to do it. We have a fine here. If you don't fucking do it, you get fined. I don't know, was it $1.50 or 50 cents? I can't remember. But he said, this time I'm fining you because this is just, it's been going on and off.
It's ridiculous.
And Emma Lou Jensen's response to that was, yeah, you're just the son of a psycho killer anyway. Fuck you, you kind of get your, not fuck you, but
That's the sentiment behind it.
Yeah. Not realizing that the psycho killer was in the next room listening to all of this and getting very much offended.
No.
She decided to follow Mrs. Jensen home, leaving through the back door of the video store. Scotty, in the meantime, had left the church and followed to the video store too because they had robbed his car in the escape of Beverly.
Okay.
Not robbed it, borrowed it. It's his friend.
Yeah.
But he wasn't too happy about it. So he went to the video store to try and get his car back and saw Beverly following Emma Lou and
Jensen.
went along to see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Emma Lou had just rented out Annie to watch.
Okay.
And was settling in to watch that at home. She lived alone with her dog. Being that she's a missus, I assume she was a widow.
A widow.
Or divorced, I don't know. Which would have pissed off Beverly too.
Yeah.
She was found. And I can't... See, Scotty is a witness to this murder.
Okay.
But Scotty doesn't live long enough to tell us what happened in this murder. All we know is she went in. Emma Lou Jensen was found beaten to death. And there was a leg of lamb next to her covered in blood. The assumption is she was beaten to death with the leg of lamb.
Well, a leg of lamb weighs between 2.5 to 3.5 kg on its own.
Would that be enough to kill you if you got whacked with it in the head enough times?
Presume so. Enough times.
Well,
yeah,
it's
with
not-
enough force.
I act like we don't know. But obviously the police investigation showed it was the leg of lamb. She got beaten to death with a leg of lamb. There was blood splatter.
How do you prove
on
it's the leg of
TV.
lamb?
Blood spatter. The blood on the leg of lamb. The bits of lamb stuck in Mary Lou's head
Mad.
and skull. You know, that kind of gives it away.
Yuck.
So Scotty witnesses the murder, but Beverly witnesses Scotty witnessing the murder. And she decides, fuck it, I've been waiting to kill this bastard for ages. And she gives chase on Scotty. Scotty gets to his car and drives off, but not to be beaten. Beverly stops a van in the middle of the road and tells the guy to get out while holding a huge knife. Everybody knows who Beverly is at this point.
So they just get out.
So the man in the van went, yup, no problem, all yours. Caesar, you're disrupting the sound again. I don't know if the microphones are picking him up every time he shakes himself like that, but he's...
Probably.
Anyway, she gave chase to Scotty and they end up at a concert. Basically, they used to have these Sunday concerts for teenagers at the... I have the name of it here somewhere. The Hammerjack Club.
Okay.
And this is kind of where Scotty would hang out anyway. So Scotty made his way to the Hammerjack Club, knowing that it would be packed with people and that there'd be a band on stage and he might be able to get away in the mass of teenage humanity inside there. She follows him the whole way and they both get in there. He gets in there because he's known, he's able to get in there. And she gets in there because she is Beverly Sutphin, the serial mom, because the media had named her the serial mom at this
She's
point.
famous at that stage.
And they were mad on. You know the way metalheads are.
Yeah.
We don't see the danger. We're just like, oh, rock and roll, come on in. And the crowd inside give a very similar kind of response because they saw her and they just started chanting serial mom, serial mom, serial mom, serial mom, while the Camel Lips were playing on stage. An all-girl group, grunge group, who are bad fucking ass because we've been listening to them a lot this week.
We have.
So she finds Scotty. He's kind of climbed up onto stage now to try and get away from her. Which, to be honest, I'm surprised he managed to do. Usually there'd be security there to fucking hurl you off.
Yeah, small venue.
Yeah, I suppose. He gets up there, she sees him, and she cuts loose some lights from overhead to knock him onto the ground. When he hits the floor, he's still alive. He's still okay. He's trying to make a getaway, get the lights off him. No, I just said there was an all-girl group on the stage. No, this would have worked just as well if there was an all-group fucking glam metal band, a male glam metal band up there as well. But the girls had their hairspray on the side of the stage. And Beverly used the hairspray with a lighter to light up old Scotty.
Poor Scotty.
And yeah, so Scotty dead. Yep. This time a whole room full of witnesses to that one, but no one talks because metalheads are cool.
They all loved her.
Snitch.
Yeah. As we've said, police were out in full force trying to track down Beverly, and she didn't make it difficult for them with her crazy car chase with Scotty. Calls of sightings of the serial mom were coming in over the radio with every passing minute, and they made their way to the Hammerjack Club where Camel Lips were currently playing, and fans were chanting for Beverly, who they believed was part of the show. And it was here that Beverly Sutphin was finally arrested and taken into custody on 6 counts of first-degree murder. She would stay imprisoned for more than 5 months as she awaited trial.
5 months.
Yes.
And the thing about it is, prison didn't, it suited her. Not that it suited her.
She became a mom inside.
Yeah, she kind of became a prison mom inside.
Yeah.
She was able to, do you know the best way to describe it is? Do you remember in Orange is the New Black?
Yeah.
So Red.
Yeah, that's what she became.
Very similar to that. Where she had a group of girls who she took care of and she mommied them a little bit.
And they took
but
care
they
of her,
took
like-
care of her and protected her to the point where she became queen of the cell block.
Yeah.
On top of helping all these girls with their problems around the place and ruling the fucking cell block with an iron fist, Beverly also had been low-key going to the law library and working her ass off. People didn't realise what she was doing. They thought she was just down in the library doing what she did, reading her fucking true crime stuff. But she didn't want people to know. She wanted to get this element of surprise in. So she started doing what she had been doing at home with the bird books and the serial killer books.
Yeah.
She was getting 2 books at a time. Now she was getting serial killer books and putting law books inside them. So while everybody thought she was sitting there reading the latest fucking true crime book about Ted Bundy or the latest true crime book about Gacy, she was actually sitting there studying their court
Law
cases
library. Yeah.
and figuring out where they went wrong and where she could go right.
Okay. So it was to be October the 4th, 1994, when Beverly's trial would begin. And in the meantime, her family were working overtime to clear her name, even though they weren't quite sure how they would deal with the Free Beverly if they were to be successful in her trial.
Yeah. Eugene's part in this was he decided he would take a strong stance against the death penalty and was researching all the ways out of death penalty convictions.
Okay.
Misty had found herself had gotten the fuck over. What was his name? The first guy she killed? Craig.
Chad.
Was it Chad? No, it wasn't
Chad.
Chad. God damn it, we can't even remember the dead guy's name.
Because he was a bit of a...
Shit, what was his name though?
I'm getting it.
Carl?
Is
it Carl?
Carl.
I know to
Carl
see.
Pageant. Pageant was definitely his second name. Carl. It was.
Yeah, Carl. Carl Pageant. Anyway, she got the fuck over Carl and got herself a new boyfriend who was a journalist. He had been following the serial mom case very early on. She actually met him at the attempted arrest at the church. He was taking photographs. He noticed Misty. Misty started playing up for the camera.
Yeah.
And he just continued to take pictures of her and they were smiling at each other and making puppy dog eyes at each other.
Aww.
But his name was Howell Hawkins. And he, along with Misty, started to put together this almost propaganda-like biography, true crime book about Beverly. Basically, if you read this book, it's the one book that's out there that would tell you Beverly had nothing to do with any of these crimes.
Okay.
Chip, on the other hand, decided he was going to control all the media narrative and ruthlessly took care of handling all the family's media rights. Getting great deals for books, interviews, potential movies, TV shows. He was on it. The way he saw it was, if all this bad shit's going to happen to us, we might as well make a few quid doing it. So that was his stance on the whole thing.
Okay.
And it was almost like a family each took on some different part of this to try and...
They each were ahead of their own department.
But I think it was their way as well of dealing with the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, that if we get busy doing this, if we get busy working on all this, we won't have to deal with the reality of what all this actually is.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The prosecution was represented by Timothy Naselrod, and it's safe to say he wasn't expecting much of a fight with a mountain of evidence and witnesses available to him to ensure that Beverly Sutphin hadn't a hope in hell of wiggling out of the charges brought against her. He was even more confident as he knew the defense lawyer, Herbie Hebden, and he let it slip to Naselrod that the defense planned to plead innocent by way of diminished responsibility, basically plead insanity.
Yep.
But Beverly couldn't have that. And like Bundy before her, the thought of being branded insane was too much for her picture-perfect lifestyle. And just like Bundy before her, she publicly fired Hebden from the defense and requested to see her case out alone, representing herself in the case.
She's not the only one to do this. What was his name again? Oh, fucking...
Bundy?
The Unabomber. Kaczynski.
Oh, yeah.
He was the same way. Ted Kaczynski tried to do this, but the judge told him he wasn't mentally
Fit. Yeah,
fit
you have to
to
be.
do
Did
it.
Son of Sam not want to do it as well? No, I don't know why that's in my head, but he
that
was
big
told
dumb
the same.
he couldn't do it himself.
That's why I'm saying he was told the same.
But definitely in
Dahmer
the
did
case,
it.
What?
Dahmer represented himself during a trial, but he was ultimately, some stage in the trial.
Was he already guilty from another case? Was this one of those kind of situations?
Possibly.
A lot of these serial killers do not like getting branded crazy.
Yeah.
Even though it might save their life, they don't like the idea of being seen as crazy. A lot of them, like Bundy, thought they were going to get off with it. I think Kaczynski's thought frame with it was, if you think I'm crazy, then my manifesto means nothing to you, and you're going to think everything I said and done is crazy. So this was all a waste of time.
Okay.
I'm doing this to try and change things, to try and stop something. And if you brand me crazy, then what was it all worth?
Yeah.
What was the point in it? Bundy just genuinely thought he could get himself off.
But nobody could hear him.
If he could get himself off, it would have been great because a lot of girls wouldn't have had to die. But but yeah, he thought he could get himself off in court as well, and that just got another conviction. Yeah. Look, she wanted to do what Bundy did, and she was going to do a better job at it. But that's not what the judge, public, or family, or the prosecution thought. The judge actually told her that, what's the saying? And I've heard other judges say it as well to people who want us what's the word again? Someone who wants to represent themselves in court has a fool for a client.
Oh, okay. I get
So
what you mean.
basically,
Yeah.
you're an idiot.
Yeah.
This
yeah,
is stupid.
Exactly.
You don't know what you're doing. You're going to get yourself in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't realize just how prepared Beverly was and just how manipulative she could be. And the first thing that she was going to do was take that insanity plea and change it to a straight up not guilty. That's a brave move.
That is a brave move,
when you
because
got
death penalty is back on the table if you're found guilty. Guilty, isn't it?
Yeah. Usually you kind of plea yourself out of the death penalty.
Well, yeah. If you're found guilty by reason of insanity, you can't be executed. I don't.
That's definitely, because you're actually innocent.
Diminished responsibility,
you're because of insanity. It's not guilty by way of insanity. It's innocent because of insanity. You're not guilty of the crime.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Okay.
If you see, the way it is basically is if I killed a bunch of people tomorrow morning and you came to me and said, all right, here's the deal. If you plead guilty, you're going to get life without parole. If you don't, we're going to go for the death penalty. That for me is supposed to kind of encourage me to think, well, they're going to beat me either way. At least they're not going to get the death penalty.
Yeah.
And for you, you're saving the taxpayers money and saving the witnesses the trouble of going to trial. And that's also the reward for the killer as well, because it's like, well, because you're not going to put him through having to relive this by being on the stand and go through all the details again and have to face you again, you're saving them some heartbreak and fucking going through all this stuff again, trauma and all this kind of stuff. So that's how they kind of level that out of, well, because you saved us the cost of a trial, saved everyone the emotional distress of a trial, we're not going to kill you, we're just going to put you away forever.
Okay.
And yeah, by going not guilty, if they find you guilty, then they are going to come after you with everything because you put everyone through so much trouble. You forced the witnesses to relive this terrible fucking shit over and over and over again, and you've reveled in it while you've done it. You know, I mean, a lot of the time they think that was Bundy's game as well, because Bundy be asking really leading questions or questions to get him to describe stuff over and over again so that he could hear them say it over and over again.
Okay.
Funny considering he wasn't able to talk about it himself.
Yep.
So that's where we're at this point. She is ready, she is prepared, and she is about to manipulate the shit out of everybody that comes in her fucking direction.
And the people who doubted Beverly and her ability in the courtroom were about to be put on notice, because the trial began with a bang. And the first witness was one Beverly knew already that she already had a handle on. And that was one of her first victims, the ever torture soul of Dottie Hinkle.
Yeah, so one of her Lesser victims, but a
Yes.
victim nonetheless. So prosecution calls her, and this is another thing, right? This is another spot where I feel she could have had this even thrown out without getting Daddy to do what she did. Now, Beverly, not being a proper lawyer, wasn't thinking in the frame of mind I'm thinking here.
Because you're a proper lawyer.
No, I'm not. But I have had time to think about this a little more.
Yeah.
And Dottie was here to give evidence linking Beverly to the letters and the phone calls, right? But there is no fucking evidence.
Or
that
do they
Beverly
have
did
any
it.
phone records?
They have nothing. They didn't bring it up in the trial. They got her up there, and it was Dottie's word against Beverly's word. So realistically, this would have been thrown by a lawyer.
She said.
They would have talked it all as a he said, she said. Beverly didn't play it that way.
Okay.
Beverly had seen over the time abusing fucking Dottie, how Dottie reacts to these tense scenarios, how Dottie is easily frustrated, and how Dottie lashes out when she's not getting her way. And Dottie is really pissed with Beverly anyway because of everything she put her through. So when Beverly starts to try and catch Dottie in a lie, she starts getting frustrated, and Dottie's forgetting that Beverly is representing a solicitor at this point, she's a legal person in this thing, and starts looking at her as the girl that lives across the street who's been plaguing me for fucking months or years or whatever it was, and starts fighting back at her as if it's just two women on the fucking street arguing with each other. So basically, Beverly kind of asks straight off the bat, do you drink? Dottie, being the good middle-class woman, is like, no, I don't drink at all. No. And then Beverly turned up, but the day I came over to Miss Sacrament's house, the two of you were sitting there having a beer, and you're like, oh, one beer with lunch is hardly drinking. But he was like, but you just said under oath that you don't drink. So that's a lie. This starts setting Dottie off as getting frustrated, and she starts cursing at Beverly, who is, according to Dottie, I don't see how this is possible without everybody in the court seeing it. But Beverly is literally kind of mouthing words to her, kind of curse words or insults to her, where nobody's looking. But it's a room full of people. Who's in there? Someone has to have seen this shit happening.
Yeah, well, you're at least going to see this.
Yeah, so Dottie is freaking out and calling her a bitch and a fucking whore and a cunt and all this kind of stuff in court. Instantly, she is not a credible witness because, she obviously has something against this woman. Look at the way she's acting. She's being unreasonable. She can't control herself. Beverly's dissecting everything Dottie says and turning it back on her. And in the end, Dottie ends up with contempt of court, a $1,000 fine, and 5 days in jail because she cannot stop herself from cursing Beverly out inside in the courthouse.
Well, you know what kind of woman she is anyway if you're going to brazenly steal somebody's parking space and not even look in the car back at them.
Yeah, Dottie kind of deserves everything she got. She's lucky she's alive.
Yeah, very lucky she's alive. The commotion caused by Dottie was enough to end proceedings on day 1 of the trial, but any hope of day 2 holding more order was quickly dashed when the first witness of the day took the stand, that being Luann Hodges, who came to court as high as the day she had witnessed the crime. Beverly used this to easily discredit her account, and the prosecution put up no fight as Luann was clearly off her nut, giggling her way through proceedings and drifting widely off topic as she was questioned on the stand. Detective Gracie was next to take the stand, and he was there to discuss the reading material found in Beverly's home and trash.
I always heard that weed back in the day was shit. That it's only as they started to legalize it a little bit that people were putting more effort into making it stronger and stronger. Do you know?
I thought in America you would be able to get it.
No, you hear fucking Yanks talking about the hippie days and like old hippies talking about what weed was like back then and what weed's like now, and it's supposed to be like they can't handle the weed that's there today.
Oh, really?
Because it's too fucking strong for them. But that's because obviously instead of some drug dealers growing it in a dingy fucking
You're
basement,
getting it
it's
well grown, well farmed,
every
like
top light and fucking fan and nutrient
music
that you need
played
for
for
it.
us.
Yeah, people treat them like they're babies, like, you know. But Luann didn't last too long, and they went on to Gracie. Now, the best thing about Gracie here is that Beverly was again prepared for this man, and this guy just does not seem to be able to get off these true crime books, and that's what he was there to discuss. Again, that seemed batshit crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is the third witness,
third
witness.
Third.
The first one is unreliable. The second one is high. So couldn't be also unreliable. And the third one's about books that you have. Unless the books are how-to books, then I don't think you have a fucking foot to stand on here.
I would also say, at what age do you become a credible witness over there? Do you have to be in your majority? Because she might have been on the edge there, Luann. I know, like, a 12-year-old can't really be seen. Like, can you take their...
You just have to question them in front of an adult.
But I thought that unless there is like another witness to go with that witness.
Oh yeah, it would help. Yeah. But they can definitely.
Oh, I thought unless you have like a witness to back up like a kid's, like you can't really and bring in their testimony.
In their situation here, they'd have Luann and a bunch of other witnesses.
No, but I mean, no. I mean, Luann saw her kill the teacher, but did anybody else see her kill the teacher?
No, but if the car matches, time match, and everything else matches up alongside it, it would be a credible thing to put in there to kind of fill in a gap of the day. Like, where was she in this point of the day? Nobody else knows, but Luann knows. Yeah, you know, and we already know she drives the same car. She's able to match the car up. You know,
that's true.
Anyway, Gracie and the books. Now, Beverly had a way of dealing with these books as well because she knew this was coming. They'd been fucking harping on about the books since day one. You know, this was one of the main things to kind of get them looking at her was what books she was reading. And she decided to combat this by getting two friends of hers. She was very good at where she was middle class. She knew how to deal with lower class. Not lower classes in like, not to disparage any lower class people, but she knew she wasn't one of these middle class people who looked down on lower class people. She saw people who worked underneath her as someone that could be used, who'd be loyal to her, who'd help her out with stuff. And she particularly did this with two of the local garbage men. She regularly used to bring out, like, you know, the little mini bottles you get in hotels of whiskey or on a plane of whiskey and so that. She had like a collection of these inside. And every now and again, she'd make sure to come out and give them to the two boys. And she'd make sure that she always had her garbage and her recycling and everything perfect. Yeah. And she'd come out and she'd have a chat with the guys every week when they came to collect the trash. She had asked those two guys to have a look through Gracie's trash. Tell me, is there anything interesting there that we could discredit him with? Apparently, they found a magazine called Chicks with Dicks. And she questioned Gracie and I think he said, if it's true that my books show the type of person I am and the type of person or the type of things I like to get up to and that I copy everything I see in the books, then can you explain to us what you're doing with this book? And Gracie got extremely upset, had an outburst on the stand, basically telling her he hopes she got fried as well. Another outburst that essentially discredited him as well.
Well, it would.
So now we are 3 witnesses in and the prosecution is 0. Beverly is 3. She has beaten all of the first 3 people that have come before her. Things are starting to dawn. It's starting to dawn on the prosecution that they might be in a little bit of trouble.
They're in trouble there.
Now the next witness was to be my favourite because it's clear that Beverly had been setting this scenario up for a long time. She was coiled and ready to pounce as soon as Mrs. Ackerman took the stand. Now, Rosemary gave a full-blown testimony. Like we said earlier on, while Beverly was killing the Sterners, the cops were talking to Rosemary and Dottie and getting their account of things. So she was basically asked to go back over her account, her statement made to police.
Okay.
And the statement said that after Carl Pageant had been murdered, that Beverly came back to this stall that they'd set up for Misty and that Rosemary noticed the gore on Beverly's shoe.
Okay.
And then she put her hand down and touched the fire poker and that was also covered in blood.
Yeah.
And she was the one to give the police the fire poker for evidence. She also kind of stated that she at times heard Beverly in rooms screaming at the phone and stuff like that and that she was a bit funny about that. But she did believe that Beverly might have this in her. Beverly turned it all on her by pointing out, as we have pointed out a few times in this episode, that the magazine that with the letters used to write to Dottie was Rosemary's magazine. The fire poker used to kill Carl was Rosemary's poker. the knife or the scissors used to kill Betty. Was it Betty Sterner? Betty Sterner.
Betty Sterner.
Where Beverly's knife? It was Beverly's scissors.
Was
So where was Beverly when all, or not Beverly? Where was Mrs. Ackerman when all this was happening? And how can she explain it? Mrs. Ackerman got flustered on the stand, was not able to answer the question, essentially not leaving anybody with the, what do they call it again? Without a doubt, what do they say? What did the Americans say?
not leaving anybody. I don't know what you're trying to say.
Without reasonable doubt.
Oh, reasonable doubt.
There was reasonable doubt
yeah.
there.
Reasonable doubt, yeah. I get
So
it.
that was there. You couldn't fucking... The way Beverly had worded everything, it was basically a case of everything you're accusing me of, we could easily accuse Mrs. Ackerman right here of.
Exactly.
And Mrs. Ackerman didn't know how to respond to that and kind of just,
Shrank.
shriveled up on the phone. Yeah, shrank in the stand and wouldn't say any more. So that was, again, Fort witness in, Fort witness out. Nothing has been proven here so far.
Yeah. And we said earlier that Chip Sutphin had taken control of the media rights in regards to the family story, and he'd been working diligently in the background to secure a TV deal for a miniseries based on the book written by Howell. Chip had managed to get some backing with Three's company star Suzanne Summers signing on to play Beverly, but this would turn out to be the biggest stroke of luck as the star entered the courtroom to do some research for the part at exactly the right moment.
So the most damning death to happen and the most witnessed death to happen was Scotty's death.
Yeah.
And Detective Pike was called to the stand to discuss that because he was actually the arresting officer at the scene of Scotty's death. And they pulled out photographs of Scotty's charred body on the stage. Suzanne Summers walked in just as this photograph came into play. And the jury were staring at her. Detective Pike was staring at her.
Nobody was looking at the picture.
And the picture just kind of
went unnoticed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
He passed through the courthouse pretty quickly and everyone was too starstruck and looking at the pretty blonde lady in the corner to worry about what had happened to poor old Scotty.
It happened.
So Suzanne Summers,
Nice.
right timing, right place, right time. Save it because this is the one. If they had really paid attention to this here, Beverly was sunk. This was the one that would have sunk her.
Was Scotty's murder.
Yeah. Because there was very little way of working her way out of that. She's found at the scene. There's shitloads of witnesses. But like I said, the distraction caused there was enough to kind of make everybody forget about that portion of the court case, which is crazy when you think about it. And I'm surprised they didn't try to like fucking appeal the decision afterwards. Because I mean, the prosecution can appeal as well.
No,
It's
they
not
can.
just the fucking defense, you know.
Yeah.
So you say that was their biggest stroke of luck, but I think the next witness was the one that signed her release form. And that was the ever interesting Marvin Pickles. This guy feels like he has a nasty story attached to him that we could probably, do a full episode on. But let's stick to the small bit first.
Despite his original testimony to police, Marvin suddenly completely changed his story on the stand, becoming flustered and looking very overwhelmed. Now, Mr. Pickles admitted under oath that he had lied about seeing Beverly in the men's bathroom moments before the murder of Carl Pageant. And when he was pressed on the subject, he claimed he had just told police what they wanted to hear so as to take any suspicion off himself.
Do you know what he said afterwards?
Wasn't me.
No, he actually got in a lot of trouble for this. Like
Oh.
he ended up doing fucking a couple of months in jail for this.
What?
For perjuring himself on.
No, I mean, what did he say?
He claimed afterwards, and this is fucking ridiculous, right? Really ridiculous. Because again, we're in a courtroom. People would have seen this happening. He claimed that while he was being questioned, he could see under the lawyers' desks that were in front of him. And that while the prosecution was questioning him, Beverly pulled up her dress and started flashing him to distract him. That was his excuse to the court when he was brought back in.
How was the judge seeing none of this? Because the judge faces the whole room.
In the same place. That's what I'm saying. He's full of fucking shit. This guy's just a fucking pervert.
Yep.
And you were just imagining the pussy in front of him.
Pussy.
So that's 6 witnesses on the stand. 5 that Beverly has successfully discredited and 1 that was ignored thanks to the star power of Suzanne Summers.
And so feeling the slam dunk case slip away from him and with no more witnesses to call, Timothy Naselrod rested his case and feeling she had successfully shit all over the case and showing the prosecution had nothing on her, so did Beverly. And so began the closing arguments.
Yep. So prosecution rightfully accused Beverly of manipulating the whole trial.
Yeah.
But again, court is all built on evidence and fact, and you just paraded 6 people in front of us here who have completely shit the bed and moved on. Even Pike, he might have been up there to prove a point, but he was so starstruck himself that he didn't even pay attention to the fact that what was going on in front of him.
Yep.
No, to be fair, Beverly, a lot of the jury afterwards, when they were questioned about why they came back with the decision they came back with, they said that Beverly was actually making a connection with him. And people close to Beverly claimed that she was good at this kind of stuff. That from the minute she got to the courthouse day one and the jury was in front of her, she would be making faces towards him, winking towards him, smiling at him. You know, in one case, one guy claimed that she like pointed out that he had something hanging from his nose and he was able to clean it from a distance, like just from her thing, and then waved at him afterwards when he got it.
Imagine.
So she's manipulating this jury as well as witnesses, you know? And even in her final statement, it was the same thing. She stood up and she manipulated them by making them feel for her, like, you know, making them feel like I'm being railroaded here. Yeah. I'm being made a patsy for somebody else's crimes, for actually a group of people's different crimes. And nobody here has been able to prove it in a shadow of a doubt that I am actually guilty. Everyone you brought up in front of me has fucking shit the bed and been moved along. You can see how unstable all these people are. Yeah. Are you really going to believe all these people over a hardworking, good mother like myself? Look at my children, look at my family, look at how the life I built. Could I really do something like this by reading a few silly books? Yeah. And the jury agreed with her. And they returned a verdict of innocence.
Good. So you think that at this point, Beverly would count her blessings and ride off into the sunset as she had lived her dream and she was free to tell the tale. But if we've learned nothing over the past nearly 2 years covering these cases, is that once someone of this mindset gets a taste of blood, and there's only 2 ways to stop them going forward, and that's death or jail. And literally before she could leave the courthouse to enjoy her newfound freedom after 5 months in prison, Beverly reoffended right there in the courthouse.
And this is probably one of her more trivial fucking assaults, especially with the timing. Like you said, imagine getting off with 6 murders and then getting yourself in trouble seconds later. So this was a real trivial one, because I had to look this up because I've always heard it and I haven't heard it in years because apparently it's not the thing anymore.
Okay.
But I know you would have heard this in a lot of TV shows and sitcoms and
teen movies and
growing up. This whole you don't wear white after Labor Day.
Yeah.
I found out what that's actually about. I was always wondering. Apparently, in the early 20th century, wearing white was associated with leisure and the summer months. And the wealthy could afford to travel and wear light colored clothing during these warmer fucking months. So, like, this is like before air conditioning. White clothes were cooler and they were cool to wear. And so you warm in the summer. And Labor Day was seen as the unofficial end of the summer season. So people would then automatically switch back to darker colors and darker, heavier fabrics. It was kind of a way of showing who the upper class were and the lower class were, because lower class people generally wore darker colors for practicality reasons. Because a lot of the lower class, working class, are going to be working with their hands. They're going to be working in dirtier areas. They're going to get dirtier easier. And they probably don't have that many clothes. There's much clothes as the rich people.
Light color clothes would have been more expensive.
And harder to clean, all that kind of shit. So basically what happened here was there was one juror by the name of Patricia Hearst who had, throughout the entire trial, worn white shoes. Okay. From start to finish of the trial.
Yeah.
No, not in common today. Everyone has white sneakers. We wear them fucking nearly every fucking day. This was an issue at this time. And remember, this is October. Summer is over. We're heading into the winter. So this had bugged Beverly from the start of the trial to the end, almost knocking her off her concentration a few times. That's how much of a perfectionist and how picky she could be about these things. Of this one thing was bugging her so much that she even claimed later, when asked why she did this, that those white shoes nearly lost her the case a few times because she'd find herself slipping when it was time to ask a question or pay attention because she couldn't take her eyes off these white shoes. So directly after the case is over, she sees this juror go to a phone booth to make a phone call to tell her family, oh, the case is over. We found her innocent. I don't think she was guilty, all this kind of stuff. And she was accosted by Beverly. Beverly starts berating her about her shoe choice.
Mm-hmm.
Patricia Hearst apparently said that rule doesn't apply anymore. That's an old rule. Beverly did not agree with her. She took the phone from her hand and then started to beat Patricia Hearst over the head with it. She didn't kill Patricia, so this only went down as an attempted murder, but she did leave her fairly... She had a bit of brain damage afterwards. Patricia was not right afterwards. Yeah. She'd do some wacky and barmy shit herself in her life because of these head injuries. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
She never wore any white shoes again.
Yeah, she stopped calling herself Patricia as well. Started calling herself Paddy. Such a weird name.
Weird.
Paddy Hearst.
So Beverly was rearrested and charged with attempted murder, and she was this time deemed insane and not allowed to preside over her own case, being issued a public defender instead. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison with 3 years suspended under strict conditions, parole conditions. But with time served and Beverly's spotless record in prison, she was out in 5.
It's not bad, is it? Out in 5 after everything she's done.
It's not. You reckon they'd have O.J. Simpsoned her?
But that's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, this is proof that in the 90s, it wasn't just black people they were leaving out for murder. or famous black people they were leaving out for murder. Yeah. Famous white people got it too. Well, no, they got it all the time, didn't they? That was the problem.
That was the problem, Josh.
On their side.
Yeah. Still the problem.
Yeah, I suppose it does prove that there was a problem there because when OJ got caught for a lesser crime later, they fucking
well, my God, they
him.
railroaded him even.
This lady was out in 5. Throughout all this, Eugene stuck by Beverly's side, and after her release, the two of them took the money made from Chip's hard work, making it from films, TVs, and book rights, and retired to an undisclosed location, even though technically none of the money was ever in her name.
Because she can't profit
from it.
Yeah.
But Eugene could profit from it. Only Chip and Misty know the true location and say the pair are still alive and well, living their best life, and have focused on putting all the events of 1994 behind them. Beverly has refused to make herself available for interviews since her release, only communicating to the public through Chip.
Today, Bev and Eugene are in their early 70s and still going strong. It's not believed that Beverly has reoffended since her release from prison in the year 2000.
Meaning she has stopped or gotten much better at covering her tracks.
Covering her tracks.
I fucking love her. I would love... See, if she was still around and available, I'd have her on the show just to talk to her. That's who
I'd write the letter to. Good old Beverly. Yep.
Except I wouldn't call her Bev again. I feel like she'd get angry.
I'd call her Mrs. Sutphin. Yes. I would. That's what I'd call her. Mrs. Sutphin. Thank you, ma'am.
Yep. Thank you.
Mind your P's and Q's.
And that was a nice... I know 6 people had to die for it, but it was a nice story this week. It was a fun story this week. And I felt we needed it, right? Because our plan was to do a whole month of March. Since Paddy's Day is in March, we're going to do the whole month of March to be Irish stories. Irish horror stories.
We did.
And it turns out that Irish horror stories are hard.
Because they're deeply rooted in
horror.
Irish history horror. Like, I really like it.
It's difficult to do true crime Ireland because it is... You think of us as a happy leprechaun people, but we're not. And it just got hard. After 2 weeks of talk, I know we only did one episode on the famine, but we were talking about it for about 2 weeks beforehand. So it was a lot to fucking take all that history in. And then to turn around and leave the famine and get into the fucking Magdalen laundries.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I just can't. And I had like
the research for that in itself is hard. The Magdalen.
Yeah. And I mean, by the time, like everything's ready to go. We could record that episode right now because we have it prepared to go, like, you know.
It's getting into the mindset.
But I turned to you and I was like, fuck this, man. I need to do something else before we get back into all this Irish stuff.
Something more cheerful.
Yes. Like a serial killing mom.
Less dead people, I suppose.
So, so next week we're going to be getting all serious again. Super serious podcast. Yep.
Keep telling yourself that.
Not really making it appealing to them to come back.
Oh, we're brilliant.
It's great.
Yeah.
I swear.
Mm-hmm.
If you like watching lots of poor, misfortunate women suffer, this is the place to be next week.
Now you're going to get weirdos.
Oh, I'll be like fucking
battered bitches in
rain dogs. The battered bitches OnlyFans.
Oh my God.
Do you know what? I don't know why people give them shit about that afterwards. Fair play to them making their money and fucking cheating these dumbass.
No, 100%. Yeah, no. But that
money.
was fine. But it was her because she hadn't been battered. The other one that was doing it had been hit like once or twice, but it was because she was lying about having been battered.
She was emotionally abused.
She was way more than emotionally abused. She didn't know.
Fucking Shelby in it, but he was emotionally abusive when he was mentally unwell.
Well, yeah, but that's because he had a bit of a shit time as well.
It's a good TV show. If you want a TV show recommendation, we actually have two by the same person, Daisy Mae Cooper, and that is Rain Dogs and Am I Being Unreasonable? Holy shit.
Fucking love Daisy.
That's a great... The only thing I found with Am I Being Unreasonable is...
You really have to watch it.
The first season was better than the second season because I didn't know what was going on. By the time I got to the second season, I know the format now, and I know to be on guard. You know,
yeah.
I know these twists are going to come.
Well, it ended on a cliffhanger, and I fucking figured out that cliffhanger. I know what it is.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, but check that out.
It's going to be another year before we get season 3. Fine.
But if you, so watch them, and then if you don't have anything else to do after that, and you're like, what am I going to do now? You got to come back and go to our Patreon at the Horrorverse Network, where we have shows focused in true crime, serial killers, ghosts, cryptids, history, and professional wrestling. And like we said as well, you want to check out It's Alive Action, which is our bonus show from this week. We are covering WrestleMania, doing a preview of what we think will happen. I think my John Cena thoughts are controversial, but right.
Probably.
I genuinely think I'm right in this. And if you want to know what that is, go check it out. Now it is available instead of the Horrorverse headlines this week. It is up there and ready to listen to. And it should be up on Patreon in 2 places. You can see it in the Horrorverse headlines or where it usually is on It's Alive Action. And on top of that, we have Wrestling with Time coming back this week as well. And we're going to be covering Lou Tez during our Rise and Fall of the NWA storyline. And we just finished You're Playing with Bones, where we did 4 great women to also correspond with
we did
March
Women's
being
Month.
Ladies Month, Women's Month. And we did. I like this week's one again. It was like I said at the start of that episode, you found a Christian that I might actually kind of like.
Hildegard of Bingen.
Yeah. And that's just mainly because I just like her name. Hildegard.
She sounds like she'd have been a warrior nun, but she wasn't. Ooh.
That is
everything's
to go home. I don't know what is. So you can listen to all that right now, and it's only $5 a month. And we got, what do we got? We got a 7-day free trial.
Oh, we got a 7-day free trial, and that's Patreon at the Horrorverse Network. And check us out on Instagram at Alive Pod and at Amy Rose IA for news, updates, pics, reels, and more.
Yes. We'll be back next week with more tales from the Horrorverse. Real fucking horror tales next week. It's a live podcast. All the guts and gore. None of the guilts. Y'all next time. Same alive time. Same Horrorverse channel. Kate, love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.